So what I'm going to be working on today is athletes. Now I'm working with Michael. We both do Chun-Kuk-Do, a form of karate with the Chuck Norris method, but this is about working with an athlete. And the problem is what most people don't realize with athletes is you sometimes have to take time out and go back to the beginning. So I'm going to be looking at Michael's front stance, but right now, no, just staying standing. But right now I'm just going to see how he is in standing. He's about to be invited to test for black belt this season. And what most people don't realize is that even though he's been doing karate for, let's say, 5 years, maybe you've been doing karate for 20 years, this also, by the way, can apply to linebacker in football, soccer, basketball. How the foot takes the floor is very important. And the reason I'm going to work on a front stance is because that's like the first move that you learn, much less than throwing a center punch, let's say. And it doesn't matter, again, the discipline that you're in. So even if it's basketball, it's about how you stand and hold the basketball. But most people don't look at how their foot stands. So even though I'm a practitioner, anyone as an instructor can look at one of their kids, especially that's having problems, or I shouldn't say having problems. This is going to get you to the next level. To become a master in anything, whether it's for a black belt master series, high-end performer, college level, professional level, you have to go back and do this kind of, especially what you're not realizing is footwork. You will never become a high-end performer if you don't advance the footwork. So what I'm doing here is basically, Michael is just floating around in my arms in a sense. But if you notice, even though he floats really well, the head is going with all of this, which is fine. And he doesn't know otherwise. But if he was sparring in this position, I need his head to go and counter. If he was doing forms, he's got to, quote, look load. He needs to do all of that. But if he can't do it just in standing, then he's not going to do it in fighting. Because that's a more complex action, and that's when you're going to start seeing people's weaknesses. And this is where I like to fight. I'm not a good fighter, I'm not a fast fighter. I'm going to be 50 years old, not that of that. But Michael will tell you right now that I'm a dirty fighter. But I look for people's weaknesses because I'm a movement specialist and I see when people are out of balance, or I know that they have to make a move to do a move, and I'll do whatever I can to take them down at that point. Because I have to be a smarter fighter. Because I don't have a system that's going to work the way his does, just because he's a spunky little teenager. That, and I'm telling you, these kids can spring off the floor. I'm working on it, but I think I'm going to need a trampoline for half my forms for advance. But anyway, so now it's just that. I want you to do a front stance, please. It doesn't matter which leg. Okay, so now he's in front stance. So now in front stance, and you'll see this more with little kids, and the reason too I have my chair here, I want Michael always to feel that he's balanced. So at any time, if you need to use your chair, balance supersedes learning. So if you've got a person that has issues with balance, I'm telling you the balance is going to come first. It doesn't matter. At that point in your studio, you can be going, wah, wah, wah. They're not going to be available to learn or learn at the capacity that you want to. So now for some reason, just by doing this, he's very tight right here in the chest. And again, I'm just making an observation. But what I'm doing is the same thing. I'm looking to see how he moves on his feet in front stance. Most people have a very tight ab, which they shouldn't have, but those are just bad habits that they just learned. And if you don't believe me right now, Michael, tighten your abs. Do you see the difference in your balance? Now let the belly go. And I'm going to do a whole lesson on abs and kias, so you can just wait on that. But what I want him to do, and then he's going to slowly just feel pressure on the back foot, which I'm doing here, and I'm bringing him over to the front foot. Because again, what a lot of people do, and this is why I chose Michael too, is to go to apply weight on the front foot. You can see his upper body wants to go forward, the pelvis stays back. Versus this pelvis coming forward and the back staying. And that's where you have a lot of problems too with the kids going into kicks and stuff and they want to lean forward. Because they're so used to walking and all that momentum, the momentum going through the head and the chest. And I'm not saying those are bad, it's just you need options. The more options you have, the more advanced you can be. Are you comfortable in this position?
Yes.
Okay, because now I'm going to come down a little bit and start working on the knees in this position. The biggest problem is people have on their athletes is they rely too much on their muscles, meaning that they've turned their muscles into a skeletal system. You have a skeletal system. This femur can withstand 2,000 pounds of pressure. It is great that you've got like these great super thighs, I get it, but if your bones don't know how to work right and your muscles are too engaged, then you're not available to do the action. This is where you always see references to judo, Bruce Lee, be like water. Water can be like a wall. Water can go into every crevice and just fill every nick and cranny. Water has no shape. But water at the same time can be like a wall and just flow so easily. So the muscles need to be in a neutral position so they can attack or do what they need to do at the time. And if the muscles are at this point are engaged, he's not open to learning and he's not also opening into defending himself. And now stand up and relax for a second, give yourself a break. So now I didn't compare you up front, so now feel a front stance with the right foot. And we'll work on that side too, and now feel left foot. Do you feel a difference?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I feel more lighter.
Hopefully too, okay, so now do a front stance on the right foot. And now in this position, look around. Left and right, just look around. Okay, and now see how your foot comes off the floor?
Yes.
Okay, now left foot forward. And now look around. Do you feel how the feet though are more engaged when they act versus everything muscle being more here, like more grounded in a sense, or does that make sense?
Yes.
Oh, now this is where it's important too, when you're working with someone's back foot, I get it, he's actually quite nice the way the foot's here, but let's say here, do a front stance like Nick. Okay. People visualize better with another person, it just happens to be. Now let's say if it was a child in this position, and again, it's a much more immature foot patterning. Half of it is not knowing the awareness of where the foot is, because you say do a front stance to a child or a person, this is the way they present. And that's where people don't understand. They think they're giving a verbal command and they expect a physical response. You have to understand where that system's at. But for me to turn around and correct something like this right off the bat, now Michael should already be able to feel that he has less balance and ability when I'm asking him to look left and right. Most people, when they do a front stance in this kind of position, feel, I'm doing a front stance. But if I asked him to suddenly do this, this feels really weird. He has no support in his tush because the way the foot is turning. And when I do something like this. However, he's now more intelligent because he's tried this, it didn't work for him, versus saying, just correct it. So now, do a front stance again from what you're more familiar at. So now does that feel even better just from playing with?
Yes.
So this is where people make the mistake of saying, don't do that, that's bad. The only way the brain truly learns is bad from good. This might feel a little weird, Mike, and you might need the chair. What I'm doing is bringing you up onto the other foot, but I'm not taking this foot off the ground. Another thing that people don't deal with in high-end sports is this crucial movement. See how I'm bringing his foot back down to the floor. Most people, when the foot has to come to the floor, it falls. Now this is where when I work, let's say with a high-end ice skater and so forth, if that foot were to fall to the floor, let me tell you, you're not doing the double axel. You have to have as much control going up and ease of breathing and all of that and stability as coming down. There we go, so now it's getting easier, you feel that? And now stand up and relax for a second. Even though he's more than capable of doing the whole 20 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever I want to do in that front stance, again, when the muscles get overtired or balance becomes an issue, his learning decreases. So I have to work with the system so he's always successful versus going into failures. So now front stance with the right foot and feel it. Always good to compare because again, it's like comparing apples to oranges. Let the brain figure it out. I like this, I don't like this. This is where his intelligence comes in. Now with the left foot, front stance. Feel the difference?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you feel too how your shoulders are starting to come down? So go back to do the right one. Do you feel how your shoulders are more engaged with that?
Yes.
They're up more, and so left foot forward. Cool. Now, even though I'm doing all this for the camera, does everything that I'm saying make sense to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Because it's still your lesson.
Yes.
So same thing, what I'm slightly doing right now through the knee, and you can see he's startling just a little bit. I'm just allowing him to come up and come down. Now that knee is pretty straightforward because it's holding his weight, he's over, and he's used to having a perpendicular leg and this. And by the way, when we start getting into high-end performers, I'm doing the lesson here. I'm not looking for him to be in, quote, strict stance. So for those who'd say, I wouldn't do it this way, that's fine. But I bet you haven't played with it either, so you wouldn't know. But what I'm also doing here, even though it looks like I'm pushing up here, I'm directing how the foot is on the floor. So when I push up here, I'm actually still always with that rotation and feeling how the heel goes down into the floor. This is important because a front stance isn't just a front stance. He can turn around and go into a phase kick. He can go around into, this foot is a miracle. This foot should be able to do 50,000 different things in 3 seconds flat, or even a millisecond. Because he can go into jumping, he can go into coming down, he can go into standing up, he can go into, his right foot can go around and go into a spiral kick. The foot has to be available. Not so much everyone's saying the force is all through the pelvis or this whole core, tight abs junk. There we go. And now see, just talking about the foot, how much more the foot's becoming available.
Yes. Feels lighter, like
Yeah.
water.
Yeah. But also feel too, when I touch you now, how much more available you are to my response. I can go up, I can go down, your body's not going, what's she doing to me? And this is how you fight against somebody else. You should be fighting against them, you should almost be fighting with them. Because even though I go to punch you as you go to block me, it's still that same kind of dance, if you look at it more metaphorically.
Mm-hmm. It's like a mirror, you're trying to copy the first, basically.
And now stand up and relax.
This,
Now-
this one feels a lot lighter.
Yeah, it's starting to feel,
Light. Oh my god.
why don't you walk around for a second and then come back and feel the difference?
You feel the movement like you did.
Yeah.
I can
But are you
picture it.
starting to see, feel your sequencing too coming over the foot?
Mhm.
So bring the head long. Ah,
Well,
your head wouldn't shorten back.
well,
So feel coming up. This is stuff we're going to be working on. And coming back down. So now see if you can try without me. Okay, now right foot forward, and I'm not going to help you.
oh, that feels way different.
Also, look at how you hold your breath.
Feels way different.
But that's sequencing.
Yeah.
So left foot forward. So now we'll go into that then.
Okay.
So one of the first things I'm going to start looking at again is just see if he's changed. So now going from side to side. And now again, going forward, there we go. See how you're much more responding through the feet than your chest going forward. See now how that's a little strange?
Yeah, it is.
See now? Look at the difference.
Yeah. I get it.
So now, keeping the feet where they're at, feeling now shifting back to the foot, and now coming over. So just going back and just seeing what the work they've done. And now this series too, I know that I'm doing the manipulation, because that's what I do, I'm a movement specialist. But I'll also be showing you how to direct someone to do it on their own in a class. So now I'm going to go in this position, and I'm just going to see going forward. And see now how much more his foot's responsive to going down into the movement. Because what's going on here is his spine, so if I hold his head here and bring him forward, it's okay, let it drop. See, the spine is learning how to go down. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I feel my spine.
So I'm just going to do this several times. Now, something like this, let me tell you, he's never done before in his life. He does not know what to expect of me. But I'm learning, see, everyone thinks of this, which I'm going to work on, the spine going up, but the spine has to sink and go down. And this is what happens as we age. We lose that ability, and that's why you see people falling down into chairs. So now I'm going to start freeing up the head. And I'm just going to start moving his head around his system. It's a very gentle touch. Notice too, when I do movements, I'm doing movements with him. It's almost like a dance. But see, I'm not expecting any kind of result. So I'm just going to have his head. See how nice and free he's starting to get? So he's looking up, he's looking up, he's looking down, he's looking around. So now I'm going to let the head go. And now feel that's a whole lot of difference. Feel the difference?
Yeah. I feel lighter.
So again, I'm going to go through just feel the difference in your muscles right there. Okay. Right where I'm touching him, his body does not know how to rotate. It's a really important function. Stand up for a second. The collarbones and the clavicles are here going through the sternum. Clavicles goes down around to C7. So the shoulder girdle. So this is crawling and all of these kind of things. But this is all the high blocks, all of these movements, elbow. So most people, especially when they start getting too muscular, and this is where most people complain in general, not just for sports, is the way the neck functions. So right through here, you want to be able to rotate and twist through. And when I touched him in that position, his brain was like, I have no idea what you want from me, lady, but I'm not doing it. So left foot forward, please. Now, I could say to the cows come home, Michael, do this. But this is where he's going to have habitual patternings. So now that I've explained it, he's trying to help me out a bit more, but still feel going forward. See how, okay, let me show you something. See, when I do this, do you feel that your eyes just aren't as fixed?
Yeah.
You're floating around. Watch the difference of your eyes. See how your eyes get fixed?
Yeah.
That's okay. There we go. See, it didn't take much to start to show him a different form of rotation. Notice how that rotation still goes down to the feet. And quickly. There we go. Now see the arms start freeing up. So now I can go back to the head. Ooh, look at that now. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't walk up to a 92-year-old lady and throw her head around, but if you're sitting there and sparring, you better be able to whip your head around, otherwise you can't do round kicks. You can't do, if your head can't look from what's going on behind you, so now look at me, and look at me, and look at me, there we go, look at me, And look at me. Relax. If the head can't go around the system, then again, it's really hard to bring people into black belt or higher belt levels. And this is why people get frustrated and they'll leave. Because the word I can't starts coming out, even though they've been doing this for 5 years. What I'm doing here, again, this is not a karate move, but it doesn't matter. If I suddenly went into him and threw him, he needs to have balance through the feet. So if he doesn't, because he's not used to his arm in this position, then I'm just going to be able to take him down. But the more and more I work with him in, quote, odd movements, the more available he is, there we go, to have full shoulder rotation and a front stance. Now, what I want you to do is let right foot forward. Probably should just move this chair out of the way for a second. So now feel full shoulder rotation. Feel the difference?
Stiff.
Left foot forward. Feel the difference?
Yes.
And feel the quickness.
Yeah.
So,
I don't have to think that much on this.
right. Well, again, you're going into black belt level. You
Yeah.
should not have to think about where you put your foot.
Yeah.
Now, you weren't thinking about, before working together right now, where your foot is, because it wasn't in your psyche. It's not in anybody's psyche. But this is where I'm trying to show you to go into a black belt level, to start realizing where your body is, kind of helps.
Yeah.
So now, so again, one last time, I'm just going to show going around on the left. Notice too how much rotation you have. See, you're more in your center with your back up. And then when I come forward, so see now, so slowly bring your right foot up. So feel the difference, and now bring back. And again. So now stay low. Now stay low.
Oh.
See, now I'll have to work
Yeah.
on that one, but that's,
the chair, yeah.
right, that's why the chair's there. So
Yeah.
now right foot forward, please.
Okay.
We're gonna start working on the right foot.
Okay.
So now feel in a right stance, going forward. So let go for a second if you can. So coming around. So feel the rotation is not the same.
Yeah.
And also, see, I can't. Feel the difference?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's different.
Okay, and stay in that stance. What do I do with my chair? Oh, it's right here. So now I'll start with this one. Now you will always have a difference between the left foot and the right foot. The more you get to master's level, when those differences are minimal. But the less sophisticated your stance is, the more you're going to notice, wow, I have great balance on my right foot, but my left foot isn't. And this is why I like karate. Even though, quote, I'm old, I practice balance. I practice doing things with my system. Am I the best? That's just not the point. But do I look like half the people sitting there watching the class? No. And I like knowing I have movement available to me. I'm not worried about a bad guy showing up, attacking me in the parking lot. But if it does, I've at least practiced enough. I mean, no offense, Michael, what, you're 18 now, 17?
18.
And I'm not saying I don't get hurt, but